What you just said brings to mind my earlier reference of how we live in a story. And the story that we've created for ourselves, that we live in, also comes with limitations which we have created and which we can change if we realize that we're living in that story. So you've been a direct cause of my own changing cosmology throughout my life. I'm having to change it because of things that I've seen and experienced and actually watched you do. I know when you were first doing family constellations, that was magic to me until you taught me how to do a little of it. And I thought, oh, I understand how this works. I understand how light bulbs work and radios work and telephones work. And no one knows what electricity is really yet. But we don't have to understand the nuts and bolts of it in order to wield it as a tool. And you have developed to the point where every time I see you, I think you're doing magic because I don't understand it yet. And you've become a lot more astute, a lot more powerful in your perception. And so, what do you think brought you to this point? How did you develop these skills that you're applying literally to world problems and personal problems and the challenges that we face as humans?
It had to do with me opening up to a wholly different model of the world and on an entirely different cosmology. I grew up in a pretty provincial, pedestrian, myopic, rural community in middle America, where I used to say that I described those people as a place where values run deep and minds run narrow. And I used to say that pejoratively. I still think that way about them, but it's not pejorative, and I'm also wrong. I mean, there are some people's like that and some people not. My first divorce, there was an opening in that divorce, and that the woman I was married to spoke 5 languages, was a accomplished musician with a French horn and classical piano, valedictorian, summa cum laude, 4.0 graduate student, yada, yada, yada. Anything she wanted to do, she could do brilliantly. That was not what I was brought up to believe how women are. And she was soft and feminine, and brilliantly clever, bright. That shattered my constructs. When she and I had owned this house, there was a playful ghost in the house that would move her dish towel from different parts of the kitchen, just playing with her. And we had a little puppy, it would jump up on it. And when she would comment to me, I would say something like, "That thing doesn't exist." And then I started seeing them myself, some other place, some other time. My realities are being shattered. At the same time, I started learning, this is an important piece. I worked my way through university as a cop, and back in those days, police were less militarized, or at least where I was. Cops behaved a little more honorably. I'm sure there's still those there. But there was a moment where I went to a call, and a man had an automatic weapon. He was firing around in a restaurant, and I was the only guy available in that neighborhood. And by the time I got there, he was out back behind a building, and he had a weapon in his hand, and I had my weapon trained on him, and I was giving him commands, and he wasn't responding. And in those days, I carried a revolver, and I had my trigger halfway pulled in case I had to kill the guy. And in that moment, between the person and my weapon, a field opened up, and I saw image after image after image of alternative courses of action, meaning I did not have to kill the guy. And I chose one of those, and I holstered my weapon and effected an arrest, and there was a minor injury, but nothing serious. The guy didn't get hurt, and I had no place for that. And so I set it aside and forgot it until later. Well, I think in the late 90s, my wife and I started studying it, going to Peru and working with the Caro Indians, learning their approach to dealing with energy and the energy of life and nature. At that time also, I started studying family systems. with people who had been trained by Hellinger and then with him himself. And so my world started opening, my ability to perceive started expanding, because I was having all these experiences that both working with the Peruvians that I couldn't deny and working in constellations. In the first 5 years I did constellations, every moment I saw exactly what needed to happen, and I would stand out there in the room working, and my brain would go, that doesn't make any sense. But the only way I could be effective is stop listening to my thoughts and do what I saw and perceived in the field. And then about 11 years ago, I started working with Sente Energetics, where their capacity to see into the non-ordinary was brilliant. And they also followed a path where it has to be, they have to have second independent verifications of what you see, so that you stay out of your imagination. And so my ability to see just expanded and expanded. So, and it can happen for anyone, but I happen to simply be, that's been my path. Other people have different paths.